It was 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, a normal work day in one of the most prosperous cities in colonial America. Merchants were counting their goods. Families were preparing dinner. Ships rocked gently in the harbor. And then, from a small workshop on the corner of Broad and Church streets, a spark within hours, half the city would be gone. This is the story of the Great Charleston Fire of 1740, the most destructive fire in the history of the American colonies, and the disaster almost nobody remembers today. Welcome to my channel, Historical Disasters USA. Charlestown in 1740. To understand why this fire was so catastrophic, you need to understand what Charlestown was in 1740. This was not a small frontier outpost. This was the crown jewel of Britain's Southern American colonies. Charlestown was a dynamic, rapidly expanding city, a hub of Atlantic trade, plantation wealth, and colonial ambition. By 1740, it had grown into one of the most important ports in all of British North America. But that prosperity came with a very dangerous problem. Urban colonial cities like Boston, New York, and Charlestown were essentially fire traps. Buildings were almost entirely constructed of wood. Streets were narrow, and structures sat in extremely close proximity to each other. Historian Matthew Mulcahy described these cities as disasters waiting to happen. Once a fire started, whether from a shop accident, a kitchen mishap, or any other cause, it was nearly impossible to stop it. Charlestown knew fire well. The city had experienced its very first blaze back in 1698, when 50 buildings, about one-third of the entire settlement, were engulfed in flames. There had been smaller fires after that. The city rebuilt every time, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared them for what was coming on November 18, 1740. The world before the fire. Here is something history books rarely tell you. The Great Fire of 1740 did not happen in a peaceful city. It happened in a city already living in fear. Just 1 year before the fire, in 1739, Charlestown had been shaken by the Great Stono Rebellion, the largest slave uprising in Britain's American colonies. In the rebellion, 25 whites and 35 blacks were killed. The fear of another uprising was constant, and the idea of enslaved people starting fires was a deep and persistent terror among the white colonial population. And Charlestown's leader had tried to prepare for at least one kind of disaster. In 1735, a Charlestonian founded the Friendly Society for the mutual insuring of houses against fire. the first fire insurance company in the American colonies. It seemed like smart thinking. It would prove tragically ironic. The city had insurance. It had survived fires before. It had survived hurricanes, disease, and rebellion. Charlestown felt, if not invisible, at least resilient. November 18, 1740 would test that resilience to its absolute limit. The fire begins. The fire started in a horse saddler's workshop at the corner of Broad and Church Streets on the afternoon of November 18, 1740. Charlestown had dealt with fires before and certainly would again. But the blaze that started that Tuesday was unlike anything the colonists had ever seen. The conditions could not have been worse. It had not rained in weeks, leaving the city bone dry. A strong wind was blowing in off the ocean, and it scattered the flames indiscriminately from building to building. Within minutes, all of Broad Streets was ablaze. The South Carolina Gazette reported that the wind blowing from the northwest carried flakes of fire so far, setting houses alight at such a distance that it was impossible to prevent the spreading. Merchant Robert Pringle desperately tried to save his merchandise from his store just south of Broad Street, while his wife Jenny ran upstairs to grab the family's personal belongings. According to historian Walter Fraser, Mrs. Pringle only fled when her own dress caught fire. And there was another dramatic scene unfolding nearby. The colony's royal armor and gunsmith, John Milner, stood and watched his own house burn while frantically scrambling to move the colony's entire supply of arms to a secure location. Rushing through the back lot onto Ropemaker's Lane toward Meeting Street, while his home burned to the ground. This man's only thought was protecting the weapons that colony needed to survive. The archaeologists can still find melted window glass and ash-covered nails at the site of his property. The city burns. In less than 24 hours, the fire of November 18, 1740 destroyed more than 300 dwelling and commercial buildings, along with countless outbuildings and several wharves. The fast-moving blaze obliterated the section of Charleston from Grenville's Bastion at today's 40 East Bay Street, northwest all the way to the corner of Broad and Church Streets, consuming everything on the west side of Church Street in between. Flames fueled by turpentine, tar, and rum raged through the waterfront warehouses. These were not just homes begins destroyed. This was the commercial heart of the colony. The warehouses along the wharves held the wealth of Charlestown. Rice, indigo, trade goods worth fortunes. All of it turned to ash. How was it finally stopped? The fire ended only after the wind subsided and British sailors from a Navy ship in port physically tore down several houses on Trad Street to create a fire break and starve the flame of fuel. British sailors using brute force, ripping apart buildings with their bare hands to stop the spread. This is how desperate the situation had become. When it was finally over, 334 homes and businesses had burned to the ground. It was to that point the most devastating fire in the entire history of the American colonies. The human cost. The numbers tell part of the story, but the human reality was something else entirely. The Great Charleston Fire of 1740 destroyed nearly half of the colonial town. Think about that for a moment. Half the city gone overnight. Many Charlestown residents lost absolutely everything. The devastation so severely overwhelmed St. Philip's Church Vestry, which collected taxes to care for the city's elderly, disabled and destitute, that Robert Pringle himself, a church warden who helped administer that very fund, now needed assistance from the program he had helped run. And then there was the cruel irony of the fire insurance company, the Friendly Society for the Mutual Insuring of Houses Against Fire, the very first fire insurance company in all of the American colonies, was completely bankrupted and wiped out by the 1740 fire. The company built to protect the city could not survive its greatest disaster. America's first fire insurance company, destroyed by the fire it was created to protect against. Sometimes history has a particularly brutal sense of irony. The aftermath and suspicion. In the immediate aftermath, fear and suspicion gripped the city. With the Stono Rebellion just 1 year in the past, many white colonists were terrified that the fire had been set deliberately. The concept of black people uprising and potentially starting fires was a continuous and deep fear among South Carolina's white colonial population in 1740. No proof of arson was ever established. The fire almost certainly started accidentally in the saddler's workshop, but the fear itself had lasting consequences. In response to the combined trauma of the Stono Rebellion and the fire, the Carolina legislature passed the Negro Act of 1740, which included harsh restrictions on the assembly and movement of both enslaved and free Africans in the colony, prohibited them from learning to read or write, and mandated patrol service for all militiamen. Colonial ruler also outlawed the African drum, believing it had been used as a military organizing tool. This law remained on the books through the Civil War. A fire that almost certainly started by accident became fuel for one of the most oppressive legal frameworks in colonial American history. The disaster did not just destroy buildings, it destroyed freedoms. Rebuilding and legacy. The fire was actually a pivotal turning point in the city's architectural history. It destroyed the medieval-style buildings that had defined Charlestown and opened up city lots for construction in entirely new styles. The city that rose from the ashes looked and felt completely different from what had burned. Charlestown's deep understanding of fire's fury helped it create historic American firsts, including William Pinckney's Fire Insurance Company, first established in American colonies. Even though the Friendly Society was bankrupted, the idea of organized fire protection had been planted. Other cities would follow. Walk through the historic district of Charleston today, and you are walking through the city that was rebuilt after 1740. Those beautiful brick buildings, those white elegant streets, those Georgian facades. They exist because the wooden city that came before them burned to nothing on a Tuesday afternoon in November 1740. Charleston suffered devastating fires again in 1698, 1778, 1812, and 1838. But the Great Fire of 1740 was the one that truly shaped the city's soul and its approach to survival. On November 18, 1740, a spark in a saddler maker's workshop became an inflow that consumed half of colonial America's most prosperous city. 334 buildings gone. Families left with nothing. The city's first insurance company bankrupted overnight. And from those ashes grew a new fear, new loss, and eventually a new city. Charlestown would survive. It always survived, but 1740 changed it forever. And that story deserved to be remembered. If you like this video, please subscribe, like and share Historical Disasters USA. Stay with me for another forgotten disaster in American history.